I'll share one of mine with you.
I feel you.
This is a genuine
I feel you.
friendship thing I'm talking about.
I feel you.
But if you play the way you play and you dedicate yourself to doing it, they will come. It's like that Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. You may have to put your arms around a couple guys and take them with you. But you can't drag them. You got to put your arms around and take them with you.
When Bill Russell picked the greatest basketball players ever, he didn't just name names randomly or follow what fans thought on social media platforms carelessly. He said, "He's my GOAT," then turned around and chose 7 legends who represented the absolute peak of basketball greatness across different eras and unique contexts and ways of playing the game. But here's what might shock you and make you question everything you thought you knew about basketball evaluation and excellence on the court, definitely. Russell's list left some fans confused and even angry because it didn't look like what we expected at all whatsoever. It didn't follow the internet debates of today. It didn't match the highlight reels or individual box scores that dominated the networks and news coverage. Some players everyone thought absolutely belonged were mysteriously missing from consideration entirely. Some players people questioned were definitely there and ranked highly on his list. So, what did the greatest team player in the entire history of basketball see that we all missed completely? What profound insight did Russell have that others lacked? What lens was he looking through that revealed a completely different picture of what real greatness actually means in the sport? The answer is a masterclass in what real greatness actually means, and it's nothing like the debates you see online today at all whatsoever. This wasn't Russell being contrarian just to get attention and generate controversy for publicity's sake. This was Russell explaining the actual architecture of championship excellence and what separates the truly great from everyone else completely and definitively in basketball. Quick favor, if you are enjoying this already, tap the hype feature and give this video some hype. It really helps these stories reach more hoops fans who should hear what Russell had to say about basketball and excellence and championship thinking. Let me take you back to 1997 exactly. It was the NBA's 50th anniversary celebration, a moment when the entire league looked back at everything it had built over 50 years of basketball history and development. Think about that scope for a moment and really consider it completely. 50 years of basketball history, hundreds of great players throughout that entire period, thousands of iconic moments that defined the sport and changed it forever. The NBA wanted to look back and understand what had made the sport truly great across all those decades of competition and growth and excellence. Bill Russell was in conversations with his rival and friend Wilt Chamberlain directly. Wilt was another legend, maybe the most dominant scorer the game had ever seen in his particular era of play and dominance. These weren't just casual talks over coffee at some restaurant somewhere. They were serious moments where two titans evaluated the sport they had personally shaped and built together over their careers. Russell and Wilt had defined what basketball could be at the highest level of excellence and competition. They had battled each other in epic contests that captivated the nation and built the league together. They had pushed the game forward with innovation and excellence. And now, as elders of the game, they were being asked to reflect on what mattered most to them about basketball and greatness. Russell had clear rules for what made a player truly great in his assessment, and those rules were fundamentally not about numbers in a box score or individual statistical dominance alone in any way whatsoever. Don't get me wrong, statistics matter significantly and can tell you something valuable about a player's impact on games and outcomes. But Russell refused to be ruled by them absolutely and completely, always without exception. Russell firmly believed winning was the only truly objective metric that truly mattered at the end of the day, ultimately and absolutely in basketball. When a game ended, the scoreboard was honest and never lied about the outcome of the contest. Everything else was politics and subjectivity and opinion and perception and bias. He saw MVP awards as inherently subjective and awarded by voters with personal preferences and opinions that changed yearly. Scoring titles were subjective and could vary based on pace and context significantly year to year. All-star selections could be popularity contests more than objective measures of excellence and skill level. But championships? Championships were absolutely not subjective at all whatsoever. Stats could lie if you looked at them wrong or cherry-picked data cleverly and selectively. You could cherry-pick statistics to make almost anyone sound great on paper, theoretically. But the final score never lied about the outcome of games. The championship trophy never lied about who succeeded and won definitively. You either won or you didn't win the championship. That was the absolute bottom line forever and always in Russell's evaluation. Russell deeply valued something he called presence above almost everything else in professional basketball. This is a term that didn't show up in any stat sheet or advanced metric nowadays, yet it was maybe the most important concept in his entire framework for evaluating greatness and quality of play on the court. Presence wasn't about scoring points or putting up big numbers on the board each night. It wasn't even directly about handling the ball or taking over a game in the traditional scoring sense. It was about dominating the entire atmosphere of the court without even having to do much physically or overtly. When Bill Russell walked onto a court, before the game even started, opponents felt it immediately and deeply in their bones. There was a weight to his existence on the court every single moment of the game, a mental pressure that affected everything around him psychologically. That concentration, that ability to force opponents to change their habits and deviate from their plan entirely, that was presence. It was psychological warfare at its finest. It was real and tangible and measurable, and it was perhaps the most valuable quality in basketball. Presence meant opponents adjusted their entire approach before tip-off, which gave Russell an advantage before the game even began. Russell looked for players who made their teammates better consistently and every night without fail. Not just players who were individually great, but players who lifted everyone around them to new levels of performance and excellence. He believed the primary value of any player was how much better they made the people they played with every single night, in competition and in games. A player could be talented and gifted, but if they didn't elevate their teammates to new heights, they weren't truly great in Russell's eyes and evaluation. That idea shaped everything about how he judged the game of basketball and greatness. It was a team-first perspective always in his mind. It was about winning games and championships together, not personal glory or individual stats and accolades and awards. Russell valued collective success over personal achievement always. Russell also believed that commitment separated those who lived their dreams from those who lived their lives, regretting missed opportunities forever and wasted potential. He saw commitment as the real margin of victory in basketball and sports at all levels. Most people thought it was athleticism alone that mattered most. Most people thought it was natural talent and genes determining winners. Russell knew better from his experience and success. It was commitment. It was the willingness to sacrifice your body and ego for the team and your teammates. It was mental toughness that mattered more than pure athleticism alone. Basketball intelligence mattered more than raw talent and natural abilities. The ability to outthink your opponent mattered more than overpowering them through strength and size alone. This philosophy permeated Russell's entire view of greatness and excellence. With these standards carefully developed over his career in basketball, Russell named 7 elite players who represented different types of greatness at the highest levels of the sport. Some were orchestrators, pulling the strings for their teams like great conductors of symphonies. Some were intellectual competitors, outthinking everyone else on the floor with basketball IQ. Some were foundational forces who changed what was possible for their entire franchises forever and built dynasties. Some were creative pioneers who expanded what the game could actually be and pushed boundaries. Some represented technical evolution, taking established principles and adding new dimensions and sophistication. And some showed relentless work ethic that demanded deep respect from everyone around them and everyone who witnessed their play. These 7 players, in Russell's mind, embodied the true architecture of championship greatness and excellence. Not one type of greatness alone. Multiple types working together, different expressions of excellence, and different pathways to immortality. Let's dive into Russell's 7 now, but we're going to work backwards through his list and his rankings. We start with the man who actually beat Russell in the finals and broke the dynasty. Here is number 7 on Russell's all-time list of greatest basketball players in history. Bob Pettit has one of the most powerful stories in Russell's entire philosophy of greatness and championship culture. Pettit was the only player to lead a team to a finals victory over Russell's Celtics during their dynasty run. Think about that for a single moment and let it sink in completely. Russell won 11 championships in 13 seasons of basketball. That's an unparalleled dynasty, maybe the most dominant run in American professional sports history. But in 1958, Bob Pettit and the St. Louis Hawks stopped the Celtics completely. The Hawks broke through the dynasty with excellence and determination. It wasn't close either in that deciding Game 6 moment. Pettit delivered one of the most legendary performances in NBA Finals history, a performance that belongs in the ages, scoring exactly 50 points and grabbing 19 rebounds in the championship-clinching Game 6 victory. He was unstoppable that night. He was the difference maker. Russell was guarding him in the fourth quarter, hobbled with an ankle injury that limited his movement and mobility greatly, and Pettit scored 19 of St. Louis's final 21 points down the stretch. That's complete dominance when it mattered most to the team. Why did Russell respect this enough to include Pettit in his all-time 7 greatest players? Because Pettit represented something sacred to Russell, the will to win and relentless competition. Pettit averaged 26.4 points per game throughout his entire career across multiple seasons and eras. He made 11 All-Star teams, a remarkable accomplishment for any player. But it wasn't just about the stats and numbers alone. It was the relentless work ethic, the way Pettit approached his craft like a professional soldier who understood that winning mattered more than anything else in the world. Russell also had a personal connection with Pettit that deepened his respect significantly and profoundly. He fondly recalled a time when Pettit showed great respect to Russell's grandfather, a memory that added character and dignity to their fierce on-court rivalry. For Russell, Pettit was proof that excellence and genuine respect could coexist in professional sports and competition. Pettit was the guy who broke through the dynasty with his effort and excellence. Russell honored that with genuine admiration and recognition and respect. Pettit's inclusion on Russell's list was a tribute to the only man who had beaten him in the finals during his prime years. That's true class and sportsmanship and deep competitive respect for one another. Now let's go to number 6 on Russell's list of basketball greatness and excellence. Hakeem Olajuwon represented something different and evolved for the center position in basketball. If Pettit was the relentless worker and effort guy, Hakeem was the modern evolution of a position that Russell had pioneered and dominated throughout his career. Russell himself played center and pioneered how that position could dominate the game and control outcomes decisively. Russell lived in an era when centers defined the entire game through physical positioning, psychological intimidation, and strategic awareness of the court. Russell didn't just block shots, he made opponents mentally afraid of what might happen if they challenged him on the court. He altered offensive habits and strategies through pure presence and dominance. That was his gift and innovation at the position. Hakeem took that same philosophy that Russell had pioneered and evolved it into something new for the 1990s era. Hakeem had elite defensive footwork and movement, exceptional shot blocking ability, and most importantly, he had the psychological intelligence and court awareness to make opponents believe he might block every single shot ever attempted. That mental warfare and tactical thinking was something Russell deeply understood and deeply respected about basketball excellence and competition. Russell saw Hakeem as a player who thought through the game completely before stepping on the court each night. Hakeem was a technician and scientist, not just a physical specimen with great athleticism and size alone whatsoever. In 1997, when Russell was having these conversations with Wilt, they discussed Hakeem specifically in context of other physical centers like Shaquille O'Neal, who relied more on pure strength and power alone. Russell preferred Hakeem's technical footwork and basketball intelligence over raw athleticism and power alone. He believed basketball was a game of habits, and habits were broken through intelligence, timing, and understanding, not through raw strength alone whatsoever. Hakeem won 2 NBA championships in his career and made 12 All-Star teams, a record of excellence. He averaged 26.94 points per game in his career. But what mattered to Russell was how Hakeem approached the game as a student who never stopped learning, never stopped refining his craft, never stopped thinking about how to reach the next level of excellence and mastery. Now here's number 5 on Russell's greatest list of all-time players. Oscar Robertson was nicknamed the Big O for good reason and complete justification and respect. Russell called Robertson's style mechanical yet flowing, like watching a chess match unfold on a basketball court in real time with purpose and intent. Robertson could do literally everything a player could do on the court excellently and consistently. He could pass with pinpoint precision and touch. He could shoot with confidence and consistency game after game. He could take over any situation on the floor, whether through pinpoint passes or clutch shooting in crucial moments when his team needed it most. He embodied relentless pursuit of victory in a way that matched Russell's own competitive fire perfectly and completely. What made Robertson truly historic was his incredible ability to dominate every single statistical category from the guard position simultaneously in the same season. In 1961 and 1962, Robertson became the very first player to average a triple-double for an entire season in basketball history. He averaged 30.1 points, 9.9 assists, and 10.7 rebounds per game consistently. That was unprecedented and revolutionary. That was something that had never been done before in basketball or any era. That forced the entire basketball world to see the guard position in an entirely new light and reevaluate what was possible. Russell noted that Robertson was never easy to guard because his movements were unpredictable and his strategic mind could outthink any defense put in front of him. Robertson had 12 All-Star selections to his name. He won one championship with the Milwaukee Bucks in 1971 with Kareem. Russell's respect for Robertson was mutual and deep from competition. They competed during the 1960s when both were frequently contending for the league's MVP award and honors. They understood each other's competitive excellence deeply and respected it. Robertson represented the archetype of the orchestrator, the player who could control any situation on the floor through vision, understanding, and relentless will to win the game. He was a basketball scientist who played the game with precision and purpose and excellence. Now let's get to number 4 on this elite list of basketball greats. Elgin Baylor represented a unique case and reveals something important about Russell's thinking and philosophy of evaluation. Here's where Russell's philosophy gets interesting and reveals something profound about his true evaluation system and standards used. Elgin Baylor never won an NBA championship in his career, unfortunately. He was a superstar, one of the greatest players to ever play the game of basketball, who never got a ring despite his talent. That usually disqualified a player from Russell's elite tier forever, and absolutely. Russell's criteria emphasized winning above all else. But Baylor made Russell's list anyway, and that tells you something important about how Russell truly thought about the game beyond just championships alone. Baylor was the bridge between old basketball and new basketball, between the ground-bound era and the high-flying modern game. He played above the rim in ways that were absolutely revolutionary for his era and time. Russell specifically highlighted Baylor's hang time and mid-air creativity that seemed impossible for the era of play and development. Baylor could improvise in the air like very few players ever could in basketball history. He was unpredictable, dangerous, a constant threat that Russell, the defensive genius, had to game plan around completely. Baylor averaged 27.4 points per game throughout his career in the league. He made 11 All-Star teams in his career. His points total was 23,149, a massive amount for his era. But here's the crucial key insight that explains why Russell included him in his list. Russell recognized that Baylor's presence on the court was so dominant that it elevated the Lakers into perennial contenders year after year. Even without a championship, even without that ultimate trophy, Baylor was a force that changed what was possible offensively. He played the game with artistic flair and creativity, taking the sport to a level that very few others could reach. That was Russell's standard for art in basketball, reaching levels of excellence and greatness that few could touch or match. Now we move to number 3 on Russell's rankings of excellence and greatness in basketball, Larry Bird. If Russell had to choose one player for a single must-win game, it would be Larry Bird without hesitation or doubt whatsoever. That statement alone tells you absolutely everything about Russell's respect for Bird and how he evaluated greatness and clutch performance in games. Bird had what Russell called a total game at basketball in the sport. He could score, rebound, pass, and defend with excellence and consistency. He understood positioning and angles on the court. He had technical correctness, something Chamberlain himself praised as a rarity in an era where athleticism often overshadowed fundamentals and basics. But more than anything, Bird had late-game confidence and basketball intelligence that was almost supernatural in nature. In 1982, Bird actually explained his philosophy to Russell himself in a conversation about winning. When a game was tied in the final minutes, Bird said he felt a profound sense of confidence because he knew exactly how to win the game. Scoring was just one asset in his complete toolkit of abilities. He would also play tough defense consistently. He would take charges for his team without hesitation. He would fight for steals and loose balls with effort. He would do whatever the game demanded of him. He was willing to do anything necessary to win games. This holistic approach resonated deeply with Russell completely. A player's presence should dominate the atmosphere and force opponents to deviate from their habits and strategies. Bird did that consistently night after night. He won 3 NBA championships in his career and made 12 All-Star teams. His career points total was 21,791 points. But the real stat was his reliability in moments that absolutely mattered most to his team. Bird was the intellectual competitor archetype that Russell valued most. He was a basketball genius who outthought opponents and executed with precision and purpose always. He understood the game at the deepest level of strategy and competition and excellence. Bird represented excellence through total dominance, not just scoring, but through presence and willingness to do whatever his team needed to win games. Now we get to number 2 on Russell's all-time list of basketball excellence and greatness, Michael Jordan. This is where it gets truly fascinating and reveals important truths about evaluation and excellence in basketball. In 1997, even before Jordan had secured his final 2 championships of the second three-peat, Russell had already identified him as a member of the foundational tier of basketball greatness. When Russell presented Jordan with his 5th MVP award in 1997, he famously stated that Jordan was the best ever in basketball history. Think about that carefully and deeply consider what it means completely. Russell won 11 championships in his career. Russell was the greatest team player in basketball history by his own standards, and he called another player the best ever. That wasn't something Russell said lightly or easily to others or in public. Russell's respect for Jordan was not based on volume scoring alone or point totals per game. It was based on how those points were achieved and their ultimate impact on winning basketball games consistently. Russell believed a great player must outthink their opponent strategically. He recognized in Jordan a strategic mind that matched his own defensive genius. Russell saw Jordan's strategic mind working on the court constantly. Jordan studied opponents intently and carefully. He anticipated moves before they happened. He outmaneuvered defenders with precision and skill. He was an artist at basketball. Russell pointed to specific moments as evidence of excellence and artistry. Jordan's 1986 performance, when he scored 63 points in a playoff game after returning from a significant injury, showed a player reaching levels of artistry that few others could ever touch. Then there was the 55-point game against the Knicks in 1995, the double nickel game, another display of skill at its absolute highest level. Russell defined Jordan as a winner first and a scorer second. That distinction was crucial to understanding Russell's view. Jordan didn't just put up points for statistics. He put up points in ways that made his teammates better, that elevated his team's chances of winning decisively, that dominated the atmosphere of the game. Jordan had 6 championships total in his career. He was the leader of the 1990s just as Magic had been the leader of the 1980s, and Russell had been the leader of all time. That continuity of winning excellence across eras was something Russell understood and respected deeply. And now, number 1 on Russell's list of basketball excellence and all-time greatness, Magic Johnson. Russell's admiration for Magic Johnson was rooted in the most fundamental similarity between them, their competitive DNA at the very core of their basketball identity. Both men were winners at their core fundamentally. Both men led their teams with an unwavering winner mentality that never wavered or broke. Both men understood that the objective of basketball was to win championships and titles, and everything else was secondary to that mission. Russell deeply respected Johnson's ability to lead a team with excellence and purpose. Johnson had 5 NBA championships in his career and 12 All-Star selections. But the point was how Johnson used his unique gifts to lift his team and everyone around him positively. Russell believed that the most important attribute a team could possess was unselfishness and sacrifice for the collective. Magic's style of play was the physical manifestation of that ideal completely. Magic prioritized the assist over scoring. Magic loved the fast break and tempo. Magic made his teammates better through pure vision and joy and positive energy. Russell spoke about joy as a vital component of winning consistently and throughout basketball. He said that joyless victory was like eating at a luxury restaurant when you weren't hungry. In Magic, Russell clearly saw a player who radiated joy-like energy, filling his teammates and compelling them to perform at their highest level. Magic orchestrated the Showtime Lakers through strategic manipulation of pace and tempo. It was about controlling the atmosphere through positive energy and relentless competence. Russell noted that Magic, like himself, was a player who could influence the final score without leading the league in scoring per game. Magic's game was about team elevation and winning together. That shared philosophy made Magic a cornerstone of Russell's hierarchy of greatness. Magic was the quintessential orchestrator, the player who made everyone around him better, the leader who fully understood that championships were built on team, not individual achievement alone or statistics. People ask why Kareem Abdul-Jabbar wasn't on this list, and it is a fair question, and it's a fair question that comes up constantly when people discuss Russell's rankings. Kareem was the all-time leading scorer in basketball history at that time. He had 6 MVP awards to his name, tied with Russell himself. Both Russell and Wilt omitted him from their lists completely, which surprised many people. Some critics argued Kareem's numbers came from a weaker 1970s era of basketball. Some said he was the second best player on Lakers teams behind Magic Johnson himself in importance. Russell's criteria emphasized presence and dominating the atmosphere of games with invisible leadership. Some felt Kareem wasn't feared like Jordan or Bird were by their opponents. There were suggestions of personal friction between Wilt and the younger Abdul-Jabbar that may have influenced opinions. For Russell, who defined winning through team elevation and strategic manipulation of opponents' game plans, Kareem's style may have seemed too individualistic or too dependent on great guard play in his later years. This omission highlights that greatness is subjective, even among objective evaluators and legends of the game. Even champions disagree about what truly makes a player all-time great. Russell's perspective offers one viewpoint, but it's not the only way to evaluate players across eras. But all 7 had the ability to transform teams into dynasties or perennial contenders consistently and repeatedly. All demonstrated commitment that separated dreamers from regretters forever. All played through injury and adversity for their teams and their cities. All understood sacrifice for winning games and pursuing championships. Russell's own approach was strategic leadership and excellence at the highest levels. He memorized footwork and moves of opponents obsessively, obsessed over timing and angles of attack, sought to outthink opponents before the tip-off started. He saw these traits in Bird's basketball intelligence and Robertson's mechanical precision and control. A player understanding their strengths, limitations, and roles they were assigned could reach unattainable levels of success otherwise. This philosophy explained his deep admiration for Hakeem's technical footwork and Magic's transition leadership and pace control. Both forced opponents to deviate from their standard habits and comfort zones. The foundational tier Russell identified in Jordan was merging high-volume scoring with strategic team elevation and winning mentality. That combination was rare and valuable and worth celebrating. Russell's list was ultimately a testament to winning as a fundamental requirement and team play above all else. He believed professional sports' true payoff was pursuing excellence consistently and reaching levels few could achieve in their lifetime. By selecting these 7, Russell ensured foundational era values and principles would be recognized and celebrated: creativity, work ethic, basketball intelligence, presence, commitment, and relentless drive to win championships. Russell's identity as the greatest team player in history was his primary lens for viewing all players in basketball history. His respect for the journey and competing at the highest level built mutual admiration with Pettit and Robertson. Even with immense success and accolades, Russell remained humble about his beginnings and origins personally. He achieved success through hard work and self-sacrifice and personal dedication to excellence. That humility let him appreciate the greatness in others deeply. He recognized Baylor's hang time as pure basketball art. He saw Magic's leadership as sacred and timeless. He understood that individual brilliance becomes art at levels few can reach in any sport. Russell's list remains a powerful reflection of a man who transformed a team into a dynasty and understood motivation, sacrifice, and teamwork as well as any leader in history. Through that 1997 interview, the basketball world gained understanding of true greatness in the eyes of the ultimate winner. Magic, Jordan, Bird, Baylor, Robertson, Hakeem, and Pettit were pillars of the sport as defined by the man who built its most enduring dynasty. Their presence dominated the atmosphere of every game and left an indelible mark on professional basketball history forever. The lesson Russell taught with his list was profound and timeless for all basketball fans. Winning matters above all else. Team elevation matters significantly. Commitment and mental toughness matter deeply. Presence and basketball intelligence matter far more than raw stats and scoring numbers alone. In a sport obsessed with individual achievements and personal glory, Russell reminds us that greatness is ultimately measured by championships and the ability to lift teammates to greatness. His 7 selections represent the evolution of basketball across eras and the different ways excellence can manifest on the court. From Pettit's relentless work ethic to Magic's joyful orchestration of teammates, from Bird's intellectual prowess to Jordan's strategic dominance, From Robertson's mechanical precision to Hakeem's technical evolution to Baylor's creative artistry, these players showed that there are many different pathways to basketball immortality. They all shared Russell's core philosophy. Winning is everything, and winning together is the only way that truly matters in the end. Russell's legacy lives through these seven, through his philosophy, and through the understanding that greatness transcends individual accomplishment. So here's my final question for you to consider deeply. Which of these seven surprised you the most in Russell's selection? Who do you think Russell would add if he were ranking players today in 2026? Let me know in the comments below and share your thoughts with the community. If you learned something meaningful about real greatness from Russell's unique perspective and evaluation system, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into basketball history and the legends who built this game into what it is today. Thanks for watching this journey through Russell's mind, and I'll see you next time.